Hello and welcome to the Collapse Experiment, where I have coffee. Life at the moment is pretty good, okay, just right, maybe mediocre, who knows. Anyways, today I'm going to be covering some of the information from the Pentagon paper leaks. I know that there's a lot of speculation. What was this a psyop? Are these real? Is this the actual individual who released this stuff? Who knows? Who knows at this point? Uh, one thing we know is that they lied to us. They know that we know that they lied to us, and they continue to lie anyways. So, yeah. But what we can determine is that a lot of the information that whoever released, is actually true. And there's more stuff coming out, not just with Ukraine, but with the Middle East and China. And the first article I would like to start with is China tested new DF-27 hypersonic ICBM that can penetrate mainland U.S. defense systems. This ties into a few other things that we are learning about uh, when it comes to China. I guess for the last couple decades, they've claimed to only have 400 nuclear warheads. Like, we're supposed to believe that. Meanwhile, we also know that they have more intercontinental ballistic missiles than we do. Why would they build so many missiles if they don't have the nuclear warheads to put on top of them? That doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense, but hey, I guess we're just supposed to believe them. I don't think our government believes them. I don't. So, and I think the reason that we did so much trade with them over the last 20, 30 years is because if they're trading with us, why would they want to blow us up? Uh, so, this article goes on to say among a sea of disclosures made by the leaked classified Pentagon document is the alarming revelation that China tested a long range hypersonic missile dubbed the DF 27 that can penetrate the US mainland defenses. I don't know how this is a shocking revelation. Obviously, our government knows about it and they're keeping it to themselves because, heaven forbid, anybody in the United States prepares for something terrible like that. We used to discuss it. We would encourage people to have bomb shelters, provisions, learning how to, I don't know, make sure that your basement is set for possible nuclear fallout if you have to live in the basement for a week or two. Um, these are things that people used to consider all the time, and now they're keeping information like this from us. Although the disclosures related to the Russian Ukraine war have hogged the limelight, the classified documents also offer a significant glimpse into security risk posed to the US by China. For instance, the paper revealed how China had agreed to supply lethal weapons to Russia. I've been saying that for weeks, if not longer, that it's obvious China is supplying Russia with, they use all the same stuff. Come on now. Their borders are right next to each other. You can't tell me Russia and China are not making nice little trade deals or just handing stuff over. That's what the US has done forever. World War II, remember we forgave all the debt that Britain had accumulated by all the weapons we supplied them before we got involved. However, the most shocking is China's secret DF 27 ICBM test, which the country or the United States did not publicize. The Washington Post reported that Beijing conducted a test with its latest advanced experimental missile. I just love how they keep repeating themselves. According to the document, the vehicle flew for 12 minutes over 1,300 miles and had a high probability of breaching American ballistic missile defense systems. The leaks have thus exposed the massive leaps that Beijing has made in its hypersonic program. And yeah, I think We have hypersonic, we don't have supersonic. That's the one that we can't figure out how to do. Meanwhile, Russia and China are like, hypersonic, we did that last week. That's so early 2000s. The DF-27 is designed to enhance China's ability to hold targets at risk beyond the second island chain and possesses a high probability of penetrating U.S. ballistic missile defense. Are they just re-saying the same sentences, just reorganized in a different way? Earlier, a Defense Department report noted that in 2021, that the missile had a range of 5,000 to 8,000 kilometers. Miles, please. This is America. This means that the DF-27 can reach any target in East or Southeast Asia and a significant portion of the Pacific, including Guam, home to strategic U.S. military bases. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to stop there. They have hypersonic missiles that can hold a nuke. Yay. Well, I'm glad that we got that out of the way. New York Times lies about Snowden to peddle evil leaker propaganda, then stealth edits when caught. Oh, let's see what the New York Times had to say. Oh, and all these articles can be found at thecollapseexperiment.com, where you can find a link. So, I'm not just pulling this out of the toilet. When the New York Times wonders why they went from the paper of record to BuzzFeed in a suit, they can look no further than this article on whistleblowers written by diplomatic correspondent Michael Crowley. Yeah, I would trust somebody with the last name of Crowley. Which for 12 hours, despite undergoing a full editorial process, contained major fabrications about whistleblower Edward Snowden, who in 2013 exposed vast domestic and international spy operations run by the NSA and other organizations. For starters, Crowley wrote that Snowden handed them off to a website, WikiLeaks, for publication, which is a complete lie. Duh. Snowden, in fact, gave the documents to journalist Glenn Greenwald when he was with The Guardian and The Washington Post, where they went through the editorial process. That is true. Second, Crowley wrote that a disclosure that the NSA was spying on former German Chancellor Angela Merkel's phone came from the Snowden archive. That's not true. I'm 100% certain that's not true. Another total lie. Both of these lies could have been debunked with a 10-second look at Wikipedia. In reality, the Merkel findings were the result of a 2015 international investigation in the Danish Defense Intelligence Service into the NSA's role in the partnership and broken by Reuters. Reuters. I hate that name. As Greenwald wrote, this story was published by the New York Times 12 hours ago. Numerous top editors. Okay, so now it's going into the tweets because that's how we do news now, is tweets. It's funny. They gave Trump a bunch of shit about, you're creating U.S. policy on Twitter. Well, you're creating the news on Twitter. You're informing the public via, if it's not an actual news article, it's a news article based on tweets. Then, without saying a word, the Times stealth edited the lies out of the article more than 12 hours later. This is not uncommon. This is not an uncommon thing. There was an article recently, a few months back, so maybe not that recent, where they were talking about somebody being sent to a Supermax facility and how they were going to be in the same cell block as Timothy McVeigh and the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski. It was trying to say that Timothy McVeigh was still alive. And then I think it was a day or two later, I went back to the same article, which they had changed the title. It was the same link, but they changed the title and they had edited the end portion where it was like, and he's going to be cellmates with. And Timothy McVeigh was no longer on there. I was like, Man, did we not execute that guy? What does this journalist know? Oh, they cut and paste from somewhere else because these are unoriginal a-holes at these news agencies. How many does the US have? Nuclear warheads? I want to say it's like 4,000. Let me. Somebody's asking how many nukes the US currently has. So, how many nuclear, helps if I spell this correctly, warheads does the US have? 3,750. So, yeah, I would just round up and say 4,000. And yeah, China has more than that now. But the peak stockpile was 31,000, and that was in 1967. And that's our current stockpile is 3,750. And China's got more than that. You combine China and Russia, and we're screwed. So that's nice. And let's see here. What other articles do we have? So they're lying about Snowden, trying to make him sound worse than he actually is. Which I think is hilarious. China rejects U.S. intel leak pointing to covert arms transfers to Russia. So now either they're trying to deny. China is again vowing that it won't sell weapons to Russia. That's because they're giving it to them. Or either side of the war for that matter. So yeah, they're disavowing selling to Ukraine or Russia, but again, they're just giving stuff to Russia at this point. There's no trade deal going on. Come on. After new accusations fueled by speculation over a leaked US intelligence document, earlier this week the Washington Post published analysis of a top secret intelligence summary dated to February 23rd of this year, which purported to show that China approved the provision of lethal aid to Moscow amid its military operations in Ukraine. Duh. And they're not going to tell us and they're not going to admit to it. That's not how China works. If true, it would confirm what had been months of White House accusations, which Beijing has consistently and vehemently denied. Also, at a time that President Xi Jinping advanced his 12-point peace plan to promote ceasefire negotiations. Well, yeah, if they're negotiating and they want the negotiations to go for one side of the war, perhaps arming that side of the war so that they have an advantage. I mean, it just makes sense in a way. But the U.S. official allegations have so far been limited to asserting that Beijing is merely mulled and discussing the possible provision of lethal aid, not that it's already done so. I call BS on that. Do I have proof? No. Do I need proof? No. It's China. They're going to do what they want. It's like we're always complaining about, oh, they're manipulating their currency and they're cheating on the world market. They're China. They can do what they want. On Friday, China's foreign minister, Qin Gang, issued new statements on the controversy, explicitly denying arms sales to Russia regarding the export of military items. China adopts a prudent and responsible attitude, Quinn said. He issued the words on the occasion of a visit to his German counterpart, Annalena Baerbock. Annalena. China will not provide weapons to relevant parties of the conflict and manage and control the exports of dual-use items in accordance with laws and regulations. They don't care about other people's laws or regulations. So yeah, there's this memo that came out saying that we know China is probably, if not certainly, handing weapons over to Russia to help with the war. And whatever, they're just denying it. It's no big deal. So anyways, that's it for the leaks, but I do have some updates on n- other news, other stories I've done on YouTube in particular. Man who went missing in December found dead in northern Michigan. This is regarding Dean Barnes. Back in February, I went to the reserve that he went missing in. Um, just out of curiosity, it obviously didn't seem like a place that somebody could get lost in. Come to find out, he did spend a lot of time there, especially with his ex-wife. So he was familiar with the area, but his truck was located at this spot. And 2 days ago, was it? Let's see here. Man who was reported missing over 5 months ago was found dead by a search and rescue team. Michigan State Police reported the body of Dean Barnes of Interlaken was located Saturday, April 15th, in the area of East Creek Reserve off of Mayfield Road in Paradise Township in Grand Traverse County. Barnes, 51, was located by search and rescue volunteers. State police said that but the cause of Barnes' death at this time is believed to be self-deletion, which sounds worse than the actual word you're not really allowed to say here on YouTube, uh, especially under these circumstances. An autopsy will be completed by Monday, April 17th. Barnes was last seen December 1st, 2022. Vehicle was found East Creek Reserve, trailhead, which I've been to. And police previously searched the area with canine aviation units but could not locate Barnes. Keep in mind, there was a heavy snowfall like right after he was reported missing. So the likelihood of actually finding a trail under those conditions is, and from my understanding, I did get an email from somebody who knew Barnes and actually notified me of this news yesterday morning. Said that he was found not far from where his truck was parked, which means I was there in that area. Even I didn't find him. So, so these things happen. It's one of those circumstances where you have stories like the missing 411, which I think for the most part they're interesting stories. But when you try to insinuate other things in there, a lot of it is just, it's not that they're unsolved, it's that the police can't prove that a crime was committed, therefore they can't officially say what exactly happened, which is kind of bullshit in a way. Oh, let's see here. We've got some comments. 4,000 that we declare. That's regarding the nuclear warheads. Yeah, that is true. We started testing hypersonic in 2022. From my understanding, none of those have actually worked. There's recent articles out there about how our supersonic, we do have hypersonic, but the supersonics have all failed. Like, we just can't figure out the technology because we went to the moon allegedly, but we can't figure out how to do supersonic. I personally think that if the US would stop provocation, we would not need to be concerned. Yeah, I think people have been saying that since before 9/11. Like, if we didn't have shitty Middle East policies, 9/11 probably would not have happened. As a matter of fact, a lot of the things that have horrible things that have happened to this country in recent decades is probably due to the after effect of some stupid policy that some moron put into place. Um, I'm not saying with what I'm about to say, I'm not saying that democracy or a constitutional republic is a bad idea. But when you have some guy who's potentially only in office for 4 years and he's signing treaties, making agreements with other countries, and some other idiot can come in later and say, Yeah, I don't agree with this. Yeah, I know so and so signed that, but we're under new leadership now, and we're no longer doing that. So any agreements that we make can always be undermined by whatever other idiot comes in the office later on, which kind of makes it so that we're not trustworthy. That's how our system is set up. I don't know what could possibly be done about it, but considering that Putin's been in power for over 20 years now, Xi Jinping, he's going to be in office for ho- however long he wants. He's going to be in power, which means he can make long-standing policy that he himself and his government are actually going to follow through on. There's no concern about, well, come that next election, this whole thing could just fall through. That's not something that countries have to worry about with Russia and China. And they likely have a pretty good idea as to who's coming into power after those two are gone. Kind of like North Korea. Uh, Whatever North Korea says goes, and unless the leader dies, that policy is going to stay where it's at. So the last two articles I have here, contentious coof medications are all anti-malarial, may not be a coincidence. So yeah, here's an interesting article that I found about a topic I'm not really allowed to talk about on YouTube, but it's through the Epoch Times if you want to check it out yourself. And they're saying that a lot of the um, unauthorized uh, medical procedures for the coof, there's a reason why they might work, and they all are very similar in what they do, and they kind of go into explaining how this would be effective. And of course, the science says otherwise, and the science tends to suck. And well, the science has changed, but the science is settled. Yeah, you know. So, anyways, I believe in educating yourself, not necessarily believing the experts because they don't seem to ever know shit. Um, and make your own decisions as to whether or not there's some validity in some of this information that is now all of a sudden coming out, because this wouldn't have been handy during the actual 3-year plus event that we just all experienced for, I would say, no reason whatsoever. So yeah, that article is also available, and there's a I just started watching on Netflix Manhunt, the Boston Marathon bombing, which is pretty interesting. Although I will say I do have some issues with how they filmed it, because they have the police officers involved telling the story, and then they're showing what looks like surveillance footage, and they mix it in with actual like cell phone camera footage of like people recording the incident, but they don't use that. Then they go to like if there was a camera across, some of it just looks fake to me. Like they're trying to tell the story as if it's all from actual surveillance footage, and I'm watching it, I'm like, this isn't real. This is using actors to recreate the event as they're telling it, but it looks legit because it looks like it was filmed on a surveillance camera. This makes no freaking sense. What the hell? Yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting to watch, but I don't trust it. I would say 100%, but I don't trust it 90%. So I don't know. Anyways, so there's this article here, 10 years on the Boston bombing backstory. And it goes into how alphabet agencies Well, let's see here. I'll just start with the first sentence. Local police, not the FBI, are the true warriors against, well, it says terrorism, but really isn't that just domestic terrorism? I know that they weren't actual U.S. citizens, but they're living in the United States 10 years ago. I can't believe, I thought it was longer than that. It's only been 10 years? Uh, 10 years ago, at the April 15th, 2013 running of the Boston Marathon, Tamarine and Zohara, uh, what is it, Tamaroff? Can't remember. I want to say it's Tamaroff. Planted pressure cooker bombs that wounded more than 250 and killed, one, two, three people, which is that's kind of sucky. Um, the 2016 film Patriots Day dramatized the story, but doesn't start at the beginning. A year and a half before the bombing, the FBI ignored warnings from Russia. Huh, that's weird. About the Tamarov terrorist connections in the film. Kevin Bacon. Oh, Kevin Bacon plays Special Agent Richard Les in charge of the counterterrorism investigation after the fact. Local police, not the FBI, go after the bombers and manage to take down Tamarin. The younger brother, hit in a boat and suffered several wounds, including one to the mouth that may have been self-inflicted. What? The brothers had murdered MIT police officer Sean Collier, as U.S. Attorney William Weinreb explained, shooting him in the head at point-blank range, twice in the side of the head and once right between the eyes. Okay. That brought the death toll to 4. As they buried their dead, Bostonians had cause to wonder why the FBI failed to learn from previous bombings. Yeah, FBI, how did you, what is going on here? You had ample knowledge to prevent this. In 1993, the FBI failed to prevent an Islamic terrorist from detonating approximately 1,200 pounds of explosives at the World Trade Center. Let me get this straight. They handed him the bomb. I remember this. Yeah, because he was not only on their radar, he had an FBI handler who gave him the van with the device, told him where to park it in the basement. And the moron couldn't park it where he was told to because there's already another car parked there. I know this story very well. It's not that they failed to prevent it, it's that they caused it to happen. The blast claimed the lives of John Di Giovanni, Robert Kirkpatrick. Okay, so there's more and more names. The blast wounded more than 1,000, including 88 firefighters, 35 police officers, and a medical worker. 3 years later, the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta, the FBI failed to stop Eric Robert Rudolph from planting a bomb packed with nails that killed Alice Hawthorne of Albany, Georgia. Turkish cameraman, so-and-so suffered a fatal heart attack, and the bomb wounded more than 100 others. Oh, yeah. They're getting to the good part here. The FBI then tried to frame security guard Richard Jewell, subject of the eponymous Clint Eastwood film, who tried to evacuate the area before the blast. For his part, Rudolph had an example to follow. So they focused so much on Richard Jewell, they didn't even go after Rudolph. And the guy lived in the woods by the Smoky Mountains. It wasn't in it was like the Nanahanna Valley for 6-7 years before he got caught dumpster diving. Yeah, good job, FBI. Back in 1978, Theodore Kaczynski mailed a bomb that wounded Northwestern University professor Buckley Crist. Kaczynski's bombs were also wounded United Airlines president Percy Wood, Vanderbilt University secretary Janice Smith. Okay. Kaczynski's devices maimed renowned computer scientist David Gelmeter, Gelm, Gelmter, 1993, and killed computer store owner Hugh Scruton. Advertising, blah, blah, blah. The so called Unabomber had been active for 17 years during the administrations of Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and Bill Clinton, all without detection by the FBI. Only with the aid of Kaczynski's brother, who identified the bomber through his public manifesto, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, they finally got their guy. 3 years later, the FBI failed to prevent the attack of September 11th, 2001, with 3,000 casualties, billions in damages, and suffering that endures. So there's this long history that they're going through of how the FBI sucks, especially at their job. Let's see here. The FBI had been tracking Army psychiatrist Major Nidal Hassan, a self-described soldier of Allah, who was communicating with Al-Qaeda terrorist Anwar al-Awlaki about killing Americans. Someone in the FBI's Washington office dropped the surveillance. Isn't this the dude that went around Fort Hood? Yes. He ended up murdering 13 unarmed American soldiers, including, who is this? Private Francesca Valles. She was pregnant and pleaded, my baby, before Hassan shot her through the chest. Oh, okay. Wow. So, yeah, they dropped the surveillance. Interesting. It's almost like they wanted this to happen. The FBI played no role in the takedown. There's still no word if any FBI bosses were ever disciplined. Nope. Demoted, promoted. Come on now. We know how this works. Or dismissed for their lapses that enabled this massacre, the worst ever in the U.S. military base. The broader public also stood at risk. So, yes, they continuously fail at their jobs while framing the Wolverine Watchmen for not doing a crime. Well, they talked about it after we got them high and drunk around a campfire. There's still no word. Let's see here. On December 2nd, 2015, San Bernardino, California, Syed Farouk and Tashfeen Malik murdered 14 people at a holiday office party. I forgot about that one. The FBI did nothing to prevent the attack and played no role in the takedown. The fleeing terrorist fired at least 81 rounds at police officers who shot the terrorist dead, and no loss of civilian life. 2013, FBI twice interviewed Omar Mateen about his connections to the Islamic State or ISIS. Questioned him again the following year, knowing his terrorist connections. The FBI did nothing to prevent Omar Mateen from murdering 49 people at the Pulse night. They interviewed him twice. Yeah, before murdering 49 people at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida. Orlando police, not the FBI, took down the mass murderer. It's almost like they want this to happen. This article is amazing. I'm seeing a pattern of behavior here. The composite character, President David Garrow, described in Rising Star, the making of Barack Obama, downplayed the IS terrorism and cast his domestic opposition as a true threat, blah, 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 blah. For the FBI, just about everyone less than worshipful of Joe Biden is a domestic terrorist or violent extremist. Oops. Guess I'm on a list. Again, the Bureau has even deployed informers in Catholic churches. FBI. It's funny because isn't Joe Biden Catholic? Isn't he one of those weird pro-choice Catholics? Pretty sure he says he's Catholic. The Bureau has even deployed informers to Catholic churches. FBI boss Christopher Wray is aghast and wants to figure out how we can make sure something like this doesn't happen again. What? If Catholics, Baptists, or Presbyterians thought that meant the FBI would do it more, it would be hard to blame them. The FBI has never been held to account, and indeed is about to be rewarded with a new headquarters bigger than the Pentagon. Why? It's obvious they are really good at. They're like Homeland Security's grandpa. They they not only don't do their jobs well, they also make the jobs that they're supposed to prevent, if you know what I mean. With actual terrorism, the FBI prefers to look the other way and leave the frontline combat to the police, as in Boston in 2013. 10 years later in 2023, actual domestic terrorists are again on the march. Are they? Are they really? Because it feels like they're not only being created, but they're being instigated by the White House, who says, "We support you, and if you were just to leave these people alone, maybe this stuff wouldn't happen, you bigots." It's kind of what the asshole in the White House briefing room said. Audrey Hale, a woman who thought she was a man, planned an attack on a Covenant school for months without detection by the FBI. Then it goes on to list all the people she deleted. Nashville police officers Michael Colazzo and Rex Engelbert took down Hale before she could take more innocent lives. The FBI is now controlling Hale's manifesto, which at this writing is still unreleased. Oh, the FBI took over the manifesto, so that I guess means we won't know if it's real or not when they do release it, if that ever happens. As with his statement after Fort Hood, Joe Biden failed to name or condemn the shooter and failed to name a single victim. Under the Delaware Democrat, every year is the year of living dangerously. I am okay. Who wrote this? Authored by Lloyd Billingsley. Billingsley? amgreatness.com. I'm guessing that means americangreatness.com. Lloyd, you have an amazing article. I like it. I'm sharing it. Good job. this was actually pretty good. I wish I would have written something like this, but I'm happy it's out there. It points out a lot. It makes a great argument as to why not only does the FBI not deserve their new Pentagon style base of operations, but they should probably just be defunded and disbanded. I do believe that they only exist because of a executive order, which means Congress never even authorized them to exist. So find that interesting. So yeah, we have this group here that apparently just doesn't do their job. So of course they're Democratic based. Like if you fail at your job, you get promoted up, and it's a failure up system. I absolutely hate it because then there's people like me and organizations who try to do their jobs, try to do it well, and eventually you learn just to not do jack shit because all the other assholes whose work you've covered end up getting promoted before you. And that's true for basically any job I've ever had. So yeah, anyways, that's about it for me today. I was kind of surprised that this went on as long as it did, but anyways, I don't see any comments in the chat. I hope everyone's doing well. Gonna try to keep this schedule, starting the new job today, which I will be leaving after this is over. And anyways, stay safe and remember the Wednesday. It's gonna be the 19th. Not saying something bad is going to happen on the 19th. I just would not be surprised. 30th anniversary of Waco. Democrat is planning on starting his campaign to run against the current president, who's also a Democrat. So, and Hillary supports the, yeah. Anyways, I'm not looking forward to Wednesday. I'm just putting it that way. If nothing happens, I'll be happy. But anyways, this week I've got a bad feeling about. Um, and again, I seriously hope nothing happens. But until then, keep on typing.